soloing is a primary guitar skill. The blues genre and the guitar are very tightly related. If you're a better blues player, I say, you're a better guitar player. And I haven't seen anything, I haven't run across anything that would disprove that. Your favorite guitar players can probably play the blues pretty well. So we all work on this skill. We're always sort of doing this thing, and sort of playing some blues is one of those things you always come back to. It's one of those things that you're always working on. Sometimes the greatest guitar players in the world, you and I, we all run into moments where that's not working for us anymore. It feels uninspired. It's called the rut. It's called a plateau. Whatever you call it, this isn't a technical problem. It's a problem about interest. You have stopped playing things that are interesting to you, and so you're bored with what you're doing, right? As a non-technical problem, this requires a thoughtful, more focused approach to solve. Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris. Today I'm going to show you a few tools that I use to re-inspire myself, and I give these tools to my students as well, designed to make your playing more interesting. They're designed to reignite your interest in your own playing, which is what a rut or a plateau is. It's the symptom of the lack of that thing. Like I said at the top, this isn't a technical problem, so it doesn't respond well to solely technical solutions. You can learn a new scale. You could, search the internet for the magic blues lick or riff that's going to save your life. But while those are possible solutions, they're not probable solutions. The tools that I'm going to show you today are actually probable solutions because they get to the core of what we're working on here, which is to make our playing more interesting, right? It's not technical. It's much more thoughtful and sort of below the surface than that. Let me show you how these work. Taking inventory. These first couple of things I want to show you are sort of designed as a calibration tool. When you start a new recipe, so you need all the ingredients. When you're going on a road trip, you need to know what your starting location is. When you start a new diet or you have a new gym workout, you're going from somewhere to something else. And so in this sort of blues soloing plateau or rut, so to speak, we usually miss this opportunity to sort of recalibrate. Like, where am I starting from, right? And when you're uninspired, this is a really good idea to just sort of, splash some cold water and sort of go, what's happening? So in that regard, the first thing is play in different keys. Just think back to your recent history, the last few months or so, when you're soloing in the blues. Are you soloing over the same songs? Are you using the same backing tracks, maybe the same loops in your pedal that are in the same key? Try B flat. Maybe you already solo in B flat, and that's great. Just use this as an example. Maybe E flat is what you need, or A flat or something. In an odd key, and specifically where the fret markers are offset from something you're used to. When you solo in a key like that, does it trip you up? Is that a stumbling block? Because if it is, what you're realizing there is a symptom of the fact that as much as you'd like to think you do, you actually don't own the information, right? You can't move it around. So it's just like, when you start a new diet and you stand in front of the mirror in your underwear and you're like, I got a little work to do. This is a bit of a splash of cold water. Can you play in other keys? And if you can't, if it's a stumbling block, boom, you have a piece of information that is, start playing the blues in every key you can, right? I mean, there are still keys that I don't use very often. I don't ever play the blues in F, for example. I think I need to do that. Okay, and the second one is play without looking. So there I am, sort of like making the key of A happen anywhere on the neck. When you play without looking, you're starting to really rely on your relationship of your ears to your hands. So there's my root. I know that's the minor third. Back to the root. There's a root up there too. So I'm using my ears to sort of help guide me around, and that starts to develop your capability to hear what you want to play. and to play what you want to hear. Okay, so and if you think about your favorite guitar players, the really great ones, they're not showing you the top of their head when they're playing. That's not the view you see of Joe Bonamassa or Steve Lukather or Steve Vai or Andy Timmons. Like, they're always, they're looking somewhere else. They're not even using their eyes. Think of Carlos Santana. His eyes are rarely open ever. Anyway, the idea is play without looking. Start to develop this, connective tissue with your hands and your ears rather than your hands and your eyes. The next tool I want to share is listening to other instruments. Right, on the guitar, everyone learns guitar solos. Everybody's got to have their guitar solos, and it's a great thing. When you learn a guitar solo, you're learning something that is written and performed with the constraints of this instrument, which is great. It's a great thing to have a library of solos that you can draw on, that you can get ideas from. When you listen to other instruments with different sets of constraints and you have to apply them to this instrument, you play something different. You have to play it differently. And when you play something different, it's interesting. And when you're interested, you're moving forward. Like, that is one of the primary ways to get yourself out of a plateau or a rut. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Piano players, horn players, harmonica players, vocalists. Let's tackle piano players first. Here I am in the key of A. A piano player cannot do this. They just can't do it. They can't bend the string. When a piano player plays that, they play it like this. There's a trill. They're trilling the keys. You may have heard guitar players play this a million times. I've been playing it for years. It's a thing. But I'll tell you what, this is a piano riff adopted for guitar. It's not that. Here's another great example. I'm playing with a piano player. This is a long time ago. We're playing the blues, and the piano player plays this phrase. And I stopped because it was interesting. It was a fascinating sound. And I didn't know, I could not figure out at that moment how I would replicate that on the guitar. So I stopped and I said, please show me that. Using two notes, right? There's one melody note staying the same, the other one's climbing up. So I have to use two fingers. It's a riff and a construct that I would never have come to. Well, maybe I would have eventually, but I'm getting it from a piano. These are the constraints that allow a piano to play something like that, and I have to adapt that. So it's a very interesting idea. So getting something from a piano player makes you play differently. It's usually polyphonic, right? Because they can play with multiple fingers. So that's interesting. Let's go to horn players. Here's a lick that I would definitely play if I was in a Leonard Skinner band. And I can do it forever. A saxophone player can't do that forever because they will die. They need to stop to breathe. So a saxophone player may do this. And stop, take a breath. Add something different on the end, right? A saxophone player, any horn player, since they have to breathe, they play a phrase and then they stop. And when you stop, when you create that space between two phrases, here's what happens. Listen to this. Now in that space, that phrase repeats to me, and the next thing I play will naturally be a response to it. Instead of this. Right? I'm just like flopping around. There's no room for anything. Horn players have to breathe so they don't die. And in doing so, they create space. And in that space, you can replay what you've just heard, and you can take a breath and some room to respond to your own playing, and that's interesting. Okay, harmonica players, they have to breathe as well, but they can breathe in through their instrument, unlike a saxophone player. A harmonica player can draw breath through their instrument, and when they do, they play a sound, and that sound is either a fourth or a fifth away, depending if they're drawing or blowing through. That's a weird thing. There are no other instruments that I know of that do that kind of a thing. So I have a harmonica riff that I want to share with you that shows, that has a clue in it. So it's in the key of D, and when the band goes to the 4 chord, here's this riff. Check this out. Especially this part right here. That's an indicator of this drawing and blowing. You can't get that. I would never have thought of that on the guitar. Right? We're moving in fifths, and then there's this weird draw note here. Harmonica players, they can play when they're inhaling. So there's gonna be stuff that they can do that's absolutely unique. Go find that stuff, right? Listen to a harmonica player, find a good solo, and see if you can grab it. It's a very unique style. It's a very unique capability. It's a unique set of constructs. Okay, now I want to talk about vocalists just for a moment. Arguably, vocalists have the best instrument. They can do vibrato, they can bend notes, it's the best. Well, it's the second best because I'm pretty fond of this. But as far as expressiveness and sensitivity to expression, vocalists have it over everybody, pretty much. Stormy Weather. That's basically the melody to Stormy Weather. Listen to Etta James from her album At Last. Listen to her version of Stormy Weather, because she takes liberties with this melody that are so extreme and so fantastic that you would have never have thought of it. And it's very specifically her capability. So, for example, the first line is this. Don't know why there's no sun up in the sky, stormy weather. Right? When she opens the song, she sings those same lyrics over this. Don't know why there's no sun up in the sky, stormy weather. That has nothing to do with the melody at all, but the lyrics are the same. And you're with her completely. She takes such massive liberties with the melody that it's practically incredible. So listen to a vocalist. Listen to how they take liberties. Listen to the way they use their vibrato. Right? A vocalist, when they do vibrato, guitar players might just do this. But a vocalist, because they've trained so hard to be able to hit pitches, what they do is this. Did you see the difference? Instead of this, a vocalist does this. They hit that pitch because they're proud of it. They know they can do it. And then they add a little bit of vibrato on there because they can. It's a different approach. Listen to sax players. Listen to piano players. Find a harmonica player that you can connect with and try to grab some of this stuff from them, because their constraints are different. And when you apply that to this instrument, you get unique, interesting stuff. And again, when you're interested, you're moving forward. The last one I want to cover is what I call the tyranny of the backing track. The backing track, the looping pedal, these are great, super fantastic tools to sort of allow you to sort of produce a little backing band so that you can practice your craft. However, If you look at any backing track, the majority of them are 3, 4, 5 minutes long, right? Because they sort of have to be or something. The looper pedal, until you shut it off, it's going. There's a certain amount of pressure for you to play that entire time. And if you're working out something technical, it's a good idea to just keep going, right? But if you're working on soloing, and a solo should have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and have some sort of storytelling element to it, right? You're expressing an improvisation. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to be playing right over the backing track and then run out of ideas and then start to play the scale and then sort of get tired and then sort of get back on track and then the track ends, right? Like, what was that? What did I just do? If you are playing back against backing tracks and you're feeling like there's a relentless move to keep on playing and you run out of gas during that time, you go through your entire library and then you stumble and you just go blah, you're training yourself to do that. If you play what you practice, right? You are what you eat, you play what you practice, you're rehearsing the idea of running out of gas, right? This is not a good idea. The better way to do this is when the backing track's happening, you play rhythm for a while. Work on your rhythm chops for a little bit. When it goes like this, get ready. Now solo. And you solo for 2 rounds, right? 12 bar blues, go around twice, that's 24 bars. We call going around the 12 bars, we call that going around once, right? Just go around once or twice and consciously know that at the end of that second round, you're gonna stop, right? And you're gonna end on some great high note. Right? You're gonna target the note on the E chord or whatever it is. Just go around twice and stop, and then return to rhythm and pretend like the saxophone player is taking it or whatever. Don't practice running out of gas. That's a huge deal. These backing tracks and these looper pedals, they don't know what you're doing. They don't really care too much about what you're doing. They're just sitting there, slaving away at the progression. Don't let them run the show. Know when you're going to start and know when you're going to end, and start practicing real solos. It takes the tyranny out of it, right? You're not just a slave to the track. You're saying, I'm in, I'm playing, and I'm done.